Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to allow you to join. People are slowly coming in through the waiting room. And if you could mute yourself among, once you get in, that would be great.
Recording in progress.
Great. Sorry, we're just letting people in and getting control of the muting buttons here. Thanks for your patience. Cool, we'll go ahead and get started. You are at the SGSO-Network, School Garden Support Organization Network, solution session on funding and financial sustainability. We'd love to know who you are and where you're coming from, so please go ahead and type your organization, your location, into the chat. Also, what you're looking forward to most about fall. I'll go first, and I'm going to share verbally, but please share in the chat. I'm Tristana Perkle, and I'm the director of the SGSO Network. And I'm most looking forward to kind of crisp, refreshing mornings this fall. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I'm just thrilled today. It's going to be under 90 degrees. So go ahead and throw that into the chat. We'd love to know where you're coming from. And then we'll go ahead and get started. Just a little bit of housekeeping items. If we could go to the next slide. We will be doing a recording of this session, but it's going to be kind of an abridged version. So we're going to be spending the majority of our time today in breakout rooms. So we'll be recording the beginning and the end so that when you're in the breakout rooms, you can really feel free to just kind of share and get the support that you need in diving into your challenges today. So we'll be doing just the recording of beginning and the end, and we'll be sharing that out after the session as well as on our website. Also, just want to make sure, like super housekeeping, if you're using your phone for audio, meaning that your audio isn't coming through your computer, just want to make sure that they are connected so that when you're going into breakout rooms, you don't have kind of two different participants. The way to know that you're dialed in through your phone and not through your computer, I'm assuming we're all Zoom experts these days, but just in case, you'll be able to see in the participants your phone listed. I'm not seeing any phone numbers listed, so I think we're good there. But just in case, here are the directions to kind of get that synced up so that you're not in two places at once during our breakout room. Cool, so going to dive into the agenda for today. I'll do a really quick intro about the SGSO network. We'll dive into the intentions for our solution session today, as well as group agreements. And then I'm going to pass it over to May Supros from Partridge Creek Farm to give us an overview of funding promising practices that she helped develop through the Leadership Institute, the Virtual Leadership Institute. And then we will learn all about what we're going to be doing in our breakout rooms. We're going to dive into breakout rooms, about 40 to 45 minutes in our breakout rooms. And then at the top of the hour, the session does go for an hour and 15 minutes. At the top of the hour, we'll be doing kind of a group harvest, allowing each of the groups to share a little summary. So more of that to come, details about that to come. So a little bit about the SGSO network. We're an open peer-to-peer learning network. Our goal is to grow, sustain, and elevate a movement for equitable garden-based education. And we do that by providing members at an individual school, district, regional, state, and national level with professional leadership development, resources, and platforms to connect. Our main avenues currently for achieving that are through our webinars or virtual gatherings, like these ones. In-person gatherings, and our digital commons, which include our forum and newsletter. You can find more on our website at sgsonetwork.org, including details about our newly launched strategic plan that we're super excited about. And then just some upcoming things to look for. We have our school food service and school gardens webinar on October 20th. And then we're going to do a larger virtual gathering on November 17th for a larger SGSO. So SGSO, school garden support organizations that support 20 school gardens or higher. That'll be kind of a virtual gathering for those types of folks to come together and network and connect. Both of those are at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Great. So diving into a bit about our solution session today and kind of the intentions that we have, they're really designed to be mostly peer-to-peer. We'll be spending, like I said, the majority of our time in these breakout rooms, and most of our groups won't have us as facilitators in them. So we're really seeking to set up the structure for you all to kind of support one another and give each other, share your knowledge with one another. We really want to focus on relevant and actionable solutions. So in our breakout rooms, we will be starting first with a dedicated deep dive into successes and specific steps on kind of what got you there. And during that time, and then we're also going to be having you share your challenges. So during that time as challenge sharers, we want you to quickly summarize your challenge. You can get to the solutions. And then when you're sharing solutions, just ask that you really share kind of those replicable, relevant steps, kind of focusing on keeping it short and sweet so that we can get enough solutions from everyone. And finally, our goal is for everyone to share a challenge and to get support on the challenge if you have one. No need to if you don't. So those are kind of what we're looking to do today. And just some agreements that we'd like to kind of put forth to kind of create kind of a brave and effective process. Honoring vulnerability, recognizing that folks will be most likely sharing their personal times when they've really tried something and it didn't work out very well. So kind of recognizing that, creating space and honoring that. Stepping up and stepping back. Again, we'd really love for all of you to support one another, recognizing that you all are the experts and you have great insights to share. So to create enough room for everyone to speak and for everyone to be able to support one another. Go ahead and assume confidentiality, and folks can let you know if they're cool with you sharing. But again, folks will be sharing kind of more personal challenges. And then finally, focus on sharing your own experiences so they can be the most kind of authentic and relatable to each other. Great. So in order for us to know which breakout room to put you in, and for us to have kind of an effective and productive time together, we've put together 2 different types of groups, and there are going to be many groups. It looks like there's a handful of you all here. So we're going to have 2 different types. We're going to be focusing in one type on funding for just one individual school garden. And then another type of group will be funding for an organization or funding for kind of multiple school gardens at once. If you are an SGSO and you want to just work on just an individual school garden, that's fine. We'll let you kind of pick what you want to do. So in order to let us know which type you want, we're going to ask you to rename yourself. So if you could go to the next slide, it kind of goes into the steps for that. So head over to the participants list, find your name, scroll over to the right, find the More button, click on that, press rename, and then you're going to put the letter for the type of group. So if you are wanting to do go into a group that is talking about an individual school garden, you're going to put an A before your name. And if you're wanting to go into a group that is going into or talking about supporting funding for multiple school gardens, you're going to put a B in front of your name. Does anybody have any questions related to that? I'll give you just a couple of seconds to kind of figure that out. So again, you're going to add an A to the beginning of your name if you'd like to work on a challenge related to one school garden, and then a B if you'd like to work on a challenge related to funding multiple school gardens. And if you don't know, you can leave it blank and I'll just assign you to a group. Great. Let's see, we've got a question here.
If I'm not able, I'm so sorry to unmute. If I'm not able to do physically to the group, I'm actually driving right now. Could you send me to a group from your computer?
So if I can't hear you very well, but I think I'm hearing that you're not able to change your name because you're driving. I will just assign you to a random group. Is that cool?
Yes, ma'am. I'm over 3 gardens, 3 city school gardens. So I would be interested in funding all 3 of them separately. So would that be the B group? Okay,
great. That I think that would be, yeah, that works. And can you say what your name is? Just to make sure that I'm not seeing a pop up on who's speaking. Okay, great. I see you there. I see you there. Yep, I will put you in the B group. Thanks, Autumn.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to May to dive into our funding promising practices. And if you have any additional questions, just put them into the chat and I will support you from there.
Hi, everyone. My name is May Chupros, and I am the Director of Programs and Partnerships at Partridge Creek Farm. It is in Ishpeming, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I have been here, I'm the only full-time staff employee, so very small organization, overseeing just a few school gardens. But before Ishpeming and Partridge Creek Farm, I was the executive director and co-founder of Gardeneers in Chicago, and we oversaw 22 school gardens in the city. So I have experience both in urban and rural fringe communities. And so I'm really excited to chat with you here today. So I had, just to start, I wanted to share with some a little bit of background about the funding resources on the SGSO-Network website. Before I share my screen and go through those, I want to share with you how they were built. So last February, School Garden Support Organization-Networks, SGSO-Network, had a virtual institute. And usually these institutes are in person. And this year, last winter, they were virtual. And so it was very cool because we were able to work with people from all over the country around a specific topic. So I co-led this group with a couple of other people, and we had a group of about 10 people who joined as working group members. And we delved into how to create sustaining school gardens. There was many components to that. And one of those components, obviously, was how to fund school gardens. It's vital. And so I'm going to share with you my screen right now and just show you some of the resources that we came up with. Is everybody hopefully able to see my screen? It is the main page of the SGSO network. So if you go to the website, you can go to the promising practices. We changed this from best practices to promising practices because we felt that language is a lot more inclusive of people who are giving all the effort and the best effort they can to creating really strong practices that are inclusive. So if you scroll down, the group that I was working with, we built the funding, the relationship building, and yes, those are the two big ones, and the staffing model. Today we're going to talk about the funding the school gardens. So if you click on funding school garden work, you'll be taken to this page. And so I'm really proud of how we collected this information. This information wasn't just myself, the co-leader, and the 8 working group members. This information was collected from people from all over the country who signed up to be interviewed from different school gardens, from different school districts, people who are leading one garden, people who are leading a district full of gardens. So when you enter this page, you'll see some data on how schools, districts, and garden organizations fund their work. The biggest thing that we took away from this was that diverse revenue streams are key to funding your work. Whether you're at the district level, again, a school garden support organization, or if you're just supporting one garden. In order to do this for the long term, you need multiple revenue streams. In case one of those is no longer there, you are able to rely on others. We also found that a huge revenue streams, one of the main revenue streams that people rely on are grants and foundations and individual donations. I love the idea of individual donations, especially if those donations come from the communities you're serving. I recently learned that a lot of donations are asked, people outside of the community are asked for donations. What happens if we actually ask the people who are serving? There's a lot of research that says people would give, but they're just not asked. So don't forget to ask the individuals and the communities that you're working in as well. So if you scroll down, you can actually click on some different in-depth resources. So we talked about creating multiple revenue streams. Well, here is some resources in those different revenue streams. So you can click through different grants that are available and foundations, what it looks like to have individual donations, a webinar on crowdfunding, different resources within each of these buckets. So it's really, really beautiful. Some of you might be doing some of these already, and some of these might be new things for you to explore. And then my favorite part of this whole resource, and the one that was the most fun to collect last year during the Institute, was our case studies. So we actually reached out to people all across the country and delved into specific examples that were working in different schools, garden support organizations, or at the district level, or individual schools that had school gardens. So you see, we have a school district, and I love these because they give you the demographics of that school or that organization. So you can really go through these and say, that's similar to my situation. So whether you're from a district again, or whether you're an organization with a fee-for-service model. So anyways, these snapshots give, if you read more, they give nuggets of wisdom. And these nuggets of wisdom dive into one or two pieces that really are working within that organization or district or school. And so I really love these. So as you're scrolling through these, you can say, oh, wow, a district I'm going to go to, or Mill City Grows. It's a school garden support organization. It's similar to my situation. I'm going to go and see how they're doing it. And then they give you very, very specific examples of the nuggets and the examples that they're doing. Just a little plug for my personal organization that I'm currently working at, Partridge Creek Farm. One of the really cool things that we do is we have a compost arm of our organization that funds about a quarter of our programs. So it's really cool because it's a product that we create, compost. We have compost pickup, and then we make vermicompost, and then we sell it, and that generates revenue to fund our program. So that was just one really cool example that's unique here at Partridge Creek Farm. So I really hope you enjoy some of these resources, and more importantly, you probably won't be able to jump into these resources right now, but take advantage of the awesome peer-to-peer opportunity that you have right now to think through some really big picture stuff. I'm really excited, and thank you, John and Tristana, for allowing these opportunities for people to have conversations. It's really how we're going to grow school gardens around the country. So thank you, everybody, for letting me speak. Good luck with your funding models and your fundraising, and I'm going to turn it back over to the lovely John.
Thank you, May. I feel like we're like on a television news show. Thanks, May. Now back to the office, whatever the station. So my name is John Fisher, and I work with Life Lab, and I'm one of the co-founders of the School Garden Support Organization-Network. And once again, thank you, May, for sharing the history and how we pulled together that incredible list of school garden resources. So if you're just looking for grants, you'll find them there. If you're looking for examples of district models, we have like case studies and other scenarios of the different ways we've seen people support school gardens. And I've been doing this work a long time, and I could say there's not one way to make your school garden be sustained. There's hundreds, and that's the whole reason why we pulled people together in this SGSO network like 8 years ago to just start sharing stories, because most of you're the sole school garden champion in your region or at your school. And so there's a lot of value to connect with other people just like you, but maybe they're at a different school or across the country. So in the chat, I just put the link to our digital handout. It's at bit.ly SS-9-22. It's also on the bottom of the screen that hopefully you're seeing right now. And this has the instructions on how you're going to facilitate yourselves through the breakout rooms. So I'm going to run through these steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and actually model some of the ways we're going to set up our discussions in there, because this is for you all once you get in your group of 5. So the first thing to know is that we're going to start out with a Jamboard. And once again, the link to the Jamboard's on that digital handout. I put in the chat the link to the digital handout, and there's a Jamboard. And the only thing you really need to know about Jamboards is, or about our Jamboards today, on the top of the Jamboard, when you get assigned to your breakout room, it's gonna invite you to be like, join room number 1, room number 3, room number 7. And what you need to do is scroll through whatever that room number you are. That's the Jamboard that your group is gonna have your note-taking session. And so you just click on these arrows to get through different slides in the Jamboard. And so once again, you're gonna find the slide that corresponds to the name of your breakout group number. So watch for that when you get invited into your breakout room. And then once you click yes to accept that breakout room, it'll also show you what group number you're in. And then once you get in your group with 5 other people, we're assuming one of you will have caught what group number you're in. And then once you're in the Jamboard, you're gonna either click on one of these little post-it notes here on the left-hand side, or on the text bar or the text icon. And that's how you can jump into your Jamboard and start sharing your successes and challenges. Because our first step, once you get in the breakout room, you're just gonna start jotting down 2 minutes to share about any successes and or challenges you have. Then after that, in your group, about 10 minutes of time, everybody's gonna share briefly their name, their org, where they're from, their role, and then a little more in depth about a brief summary of a funding success. For example, I might say, well, we got a lot of small school garden grants, and the way we did that is we partnered with a parent who liked to write, and she wrote all the grants and edited all the grants. I provided the information about what we wanted to fund, and she turned that into strong language because she was a writer. And so that would be an example of sharing a success and a little bit about the backstory. And so that will be about 2 minutes each. And then after everybody's introduced themselves and gave a little success story, that's time when our whole group, step number 3, it'll just time for Q&A. So it might be like, hey, John, you mentioned that you found a parent that wrote grants. Did you find anybody else to write grants? Or what else did you find that was successful for turning in your grants? So it's a time in your group of 5 just to ask questions about those successes and get a little more clarity. Okay, and then the bulk of your meeting time is our solution share session, and that's step 4. And the way this works, I'm actually going to model this right now with my friends Snake, Koala Bear, and Fox. And so you're going to have this group. I only have 4 in my group, but you're going to have 5. And the way we're going to do the solution share is one person's going to start out and share a challenge. Oh, we have these after school like snack sales. We're trying to raise funds, but nobody buys any of the food. We don't make any money that way. And then everybody in the group is going to share a solution. Have you thought about eucalyptus leaves? The people we work with love eucalyptus leaves. Have you thought about sugar and butter? Humans love sugar and butter. I saw, when we do these bake sales, we bake live mice into our muffins. People love live mice in their bake sales. And we also make sure to advertise these and, let all the parents know to send their kids with money so that they can actually buy the stuff after school. And then that person's going to be like, oh, wow, what a great idea. Do you actually use money? Fox? Oh, yeah, people use money. Oh, we were just using, we were trading sticks and stones as our currency. Yeah, that might not be the best idea. Okay, so that's how we're going to set up number 4. So one person shares a challenge. Everybody in the room, it's like you have this little team of 4 people to be your consultants to share ideas, either from their own perspective, or you can make up a whole new idea like, hey, have you ever thought about this? There's no bad ideas. So you're going to share out all those solutions. That person that initially shared that challenge is going to have all these great new ideas. And then someone else in the room is going to send out a whole new challenge. So of your group of 5, someone else is going to offer up a challenge. And then repeat. Everybody's going to offer a brief solution. And you'll move forward to your group so that everybody gets a chance to share a challenge. And then they get to hear from this think group of potential solutions. So that's how the solution share is going to happen. And then for your last 2 minutes, we want you to elect one person in your group to share back to the whole group a bright idea or a good idea or an interesting new idea or approach. And you'll share maybe one or two just to say, oh, in our group, we learned about this whole new, mechanism of sweetened beverage taxes. We've learned that they're funding, wellness education in schools. And that's how we're going to end up, by hearing a summary of every group. So with that, I went into detail about how our breakout rooms are going to happen. Make sure you find that handout at bit.ly/ss-9-22. And that will guide you through the process that I just tried to share. And Chris, I see that you like eucalyptus leaves as well. And maybe you would have bought some of the eucalyptus treats at Koala Bear's snack sale. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Tristana. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And maybe before Tristana throws you out into your breakout rooms, we should pause and see if there's any questions before we send you out into your breakout rooms. Also know if you aren't successful in a breakout room, you'll be in the main room with us, and then we'll be able to get you where you need to go. Welcome you back. Hopefully you all had some good dialogue and that it was a good amount of time. It's always hard to say what's happening in your breakout rooms because we can't walk around them and check them out. But hopefully some good things were shared. And we want to take our last 5 to 7 minutes here to have each group just share a strong nugget of a success or an idea that came through in your group. You don't have to summarize the whole discussion, but just choose one, something that might have been novel or interesting, one or two to share. I'm going to start with the first group that had Darren and Shelley in it. It looks like Catherine. So if Darren or Shelley, you want to share a brief summary of something that was shared in your group.
Shelley, you want to go ahead?
I love the idea of your garden trying to raise money by selling some of the produce, and because you're right next to a zoo, to have a food truck using that produce, or also to grow the food to feed the animals and have that be part of the signage at the zoo, perhaps. It's a great idea.
Neat. So generating some of your own income. Sounds great. All right. Room 2. I see Nancy, Pam, Trisha, Catherine, Kim. And I don't know if people are stuck in there, not able to unmute. We've had other people not able to unmute when they're in the main room here.
It works now. At first, it wouldn't allow me to unmute. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Thanks for raising your hand, Pam. I
Yeah.
saw you.
Like, I don't know if I'm on the right screen for you to see me, but so our group talked a lot about, how a lot of us just use different grants, and then it's constantly the cycle of trying to write grants and send reports for grants so that you can continue to have that money coming in. And so another idea was to go more local, and somebody mentioned their local grocer was actually a funder to help a farm manager have a salary. So really tapping into more of the community. I think, like you said, sometimes they don't help if they're not asked. So that's a great reminder that it's possible if you ask.
That is great. The idea of having someone that's funded that takes on a responsibility, even if it's 5 or 10% of their job, but that they're actually there over time and over the years, sounds great. And I know when I was managing a school garden and we had grants, one thing that I found really advantageous was to document all of them. So we had like institutional knowledge over the decade of writing grants, like when was that last one submitted and when can we resubmit? Because a lot of these grants you could resubmit after a certain amount of time, and then having all the language available so that when parents changed out and I needed a new grant writer, they could go and look at past grant language and just recycle it. Because a lot of those $500 to $2,000 grants, they're all the same questions for the most part. So you just need to kind of repurpose them. So having strong documentation if you're going through that small grant cycle is really advantageous, I think. Well, thanks for sharing. And I'm glad to hear that that example of having a community partner. It takes a village, you know, we need that to make these things happen. So looking at room 4, Autumn, Wells, Anne, and Elena, if one of you want to raise your hand, we'll make sure you can unmute yourself if you can't do it on your own.
Can you hear me? Okay, there we go.
Autumn, yes, we can, thanks.
All right, so my group shared a lot of really cool ideas and information. So we've talked about EDU. I think someone mentioned SNAP EDU funding employees through like counties. RCD grants, they fund employees, not just, you know, the schools or the gardens. So people like me or the garden educators would be funded to do more things. USDA grants, they also fund individuals, not just businesses. And I think that kind of went along with our other interest in like long-term funding. You know, family foundation funding. Some of those grants are renewable, like you just mentioned. Endowments. I think one of my teammates mentioned endowments for grants and funding. Public health organizations. Yeah, I'm just going through my notes, but one idea that I kind of presented to the group that we all talked about, and they gave me some really good ideas. So in my city, we have Feast Hall. It's kind of like a really, really big farmers market. The community comes out, local farmers, vendors, and they'll sell goods, not just food, but mostly food. I was kind of wondering if this could be a part of / like funding for the school garden, not just a grant. If like the kids, I saw like, you know, the kids would be there at Feast Hall, maybe through like, you know, 5 kids that would represent like garden club at their school. And they could also, you know, push like young entrepreneur programs. The kids would set up, you know, be a vendor at Feast Hall and sell the school garden's vegetables or anything like that, seeds that they might have, you know, collected throughout the years. All that money would go back to the school gardens. And while they're there, have the community come up like, oh, hey, I want to buy something. Oh, are you interested in being the outdoor classroom sponsor or the school sponsor? That you might get extra funding that way. Volunteers for outdoor classroom work days, stuff like that.
Autumn, thank you. You really put out the summary of like there's so many different connections to school gardens, resource conservation district, or SNAP Ed, looking at nutrition or land management. And in every community,
Yes.
you find funded organizations that are interested in what your school garden does, waste reduction. And so look outside the box and see who's interested in what you can teach in your school garden to help fund. So I do want to recognize we've come to the ending time of where we're at. So I know people, you know, some people have already jumped off and others might have to, but I do want to give room 5 and room 6 to briefly share to hear kind of the nuggets that came out of their discussion. So Stephanie, Michelle, Nicole, Christina, or Alana. And I do also want to, in the chat, I just put our feedback link, and we would love your feedback because we're still trying to figure out how best to run these virtual gatherings for peer-to-peer sharing. So if you grab that bit.ly link, you can share your feedback on this session. So with that, we'll go to room 5, and those that have to leave, we'll see you another time.
Thanks, John. Let's see, in room 5, we were talking about mostly how to get more individual donations and also district level support. And this is kind of a long game strategy, but and a bit of a cliche when it comes to fundraising, but we decided it really does come down to relationship building, just putting yourself out there into the community and meeting people, and then just continuing to stay in touch and share information and ask for individual donations on at that level. And then at the district level, to develop relationships with leaders in the different departments that are related. So, you know, STEM instruction, food services, operations, sustainability, teacher professional development. So just finding that person in those departments that, you know, you're helping them to meet their goals and develop those relationships with the goal that eventually, you know, funding or complementary policies will come out of it.
Relationship building is key. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, room 6, Nicole, Ray, or Jordan.
So yeah, our group, we talked about a lot of the same things, but one thing that came up that I thought was unique was a parcel tax. So maybe if your district could have a parcel tax, that way that money can go directly to your farm to school program. So that's another approach that you could do for that more long-term sustainable. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to add. That's different.
Great. Well, thanks. And parcel tax, we have a link to examples of that on our SGSO-Network funding page, the one that's in your handout. And I know in Santa Cruz for over a decade, we've been funding garden coordinators at all our city schools through a parcel tax. So it's pretty special to have funded garden coordinators. So I thank you all for staying on our overtime. Definitely interested in your feedback. So if you can find that bit.ly link that's in your handout, that would be super great. And I'm willing to stay on if people have any more questions, because I know this all went pretty fast. And I'm gonna pass it off to Tristana, see if she has any last comments.
No, really, just want to say thank you, John, for leading us, and thank you everyone for joining and being willing to kind of, you know, pilot this way of coming together virtually to allow you all to connect with each other and share your amazing knowledge with each other. So thanks for going on this journey with us. We're really excited to continue to just tweak it and continue to offer these sessions on different types of topics. You can find us at SGSO-Network. .org and also on social media at SGSO-Network. And feel free to email me at any time, but otherwise we're gonna let you guys go. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate it.